I like quarterbacks that have a little bit of cockiness to them, to tell you the truth. I enjoy that. I enjoy when they play and carry themselves with a chip and a little bit of swagger that they mean business. Furthermore, I like when quarterbacks have some self-awareness. And that's where Diego Pavia went wrong. If you haven't seen the clips, the comments from Diego Pavia being on Bussin with the Boys, the podcast, he talked about how in one instance that after the 2025 season, Vanderbilt will run Tennessee. That the state of Tennessee, Vanderbilt will be the most important, the biggest, the baddest football program in the Volunteer State going forward. No, they will not. No, they won't. You see, that's just not going to happen. And I think the overwhelming majority of people in the college football world would agree. They think that's not going to happen. Vanderbilt is not going to overtake Tennessee this year, next year, or really anytime soon. And that's where the self-awareness bit comes into play because, for one, Vanderbilt had a really unexpected, a good season in 2024. They beat Alabama, and nobody thought that the Commodores had a chance in hell to beat Alabama. They also lost at Georgia State, so we can straddle that line. But the chances that Vanderbilt is going to do something that it's never really done, beginning now, isn't likely. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because only a Sith deals in absolutes. But it's highly, highly unlikely and highly improbable that it is going to be Vanderbilt's world and everybody else is just living in it. And that self-awareness piece is where my hang-up comes, because there are a lot of people taking shots at Diego Pavia today and yesterday, and I think probably justifiably so, because Vanderbilt is, I think, the quintessential case study in you're the laughingstock of your conference and being the laughingstock. And I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans' worlds, being the laughingstock of the SEC sure beats being the best team in the American. I don't know if that's the case. I think I would rather, watch my football team win football games or be good at the sport. That's just me. I would prefer to be entertained by my football program and not constantly dismayed at what I see. And Vanderbilt had a good season last year. Hell, they won 7 games. Tennessee was in the college football playoff. And the idea that Josh Heupel, who I believe is a very good coach, I think it's hard to argue anything differently, is going to be the coach that leads Tennessee to its downfall while Vanderbilt is on the rise. That's just not how this works. And furthermore, and I think this is maybe my biggest point of contention with what Diego Pavia had talked about, he was asked how much money he had been offered in the NIL market to leave Vanderbilt. And there are people balking at this number, and I don't think this is too crazy that he had said another SEC school had offered him $4.5 million to leave Vanderbilt. I don't know that I buy that, because I don't know that there are a ton of schools in the SEC who were looking for a player of Diego Pavia's stature and ability, if that is the nice way to say it. I mentioned earlier this week, I think Diego Pavia is a really fun, interesting quarterback who I believe is just one of those dudes that just is going to find a way to be successful no matter what. Now, that level of success, it does have a ceiling. He's not going to carry somebody to a national championship. He doesn't have that Mighty Mouse ability. But can he come in and play better than a lot of higher touted quarterbacks? Yeah. He can. And the going rate for a quarterback now is in that somewhat ballpark. Darian Mensah talked about how he, like, on the record, I got $3 million from Duke to transfer from Tulane to Duke, and I took it because I can set my family up for a really long time with $3 million. And he's absolutely correct. And so if it's $3 million for Duke to pluck a quarterback from the group of five, saying 4.5 or $4 million to go from one SEC school to another doesn't feel completely out of the question. So I don't think he's wrong or misguided or lying about that. But Will Compton and Taylor Lewan, who are the hosts of Bussin' with the Boys, both went to Big Ten schools. Taylor Lewan went to Michigan. Will Compton went to Nebraska. And this was kind of my sticking point, was Diego Pavia had said that, I had got offers from other SEC schools to go there for $4.5 million. And they said, well, what about Big Ten schools? And he said, you don't even answer Big Ten calls because they don't play Big Ten. They don't play real football in the Big Ten. Nobody's going to hand it to you in the Big Ten like they do in the SEC week after week after week, which is just such a weird, it's such a weird decision-making process. Like, if it's just to, like, I'm playing it up, to hamming it up to mess with these guys, okay, fine, whatever. And I think part of that is, like, he went on to say, nobody's giving it to you week after week from Purdue and Nebraska, which is where Will Compton went. I think that's probably part of it. There is a little bit that when you look at it, that Diego Pavia was born in 2001. The best days of Nebraska football have been, like, under Bo Pelini when they were going 9-3. He doesn't view Nebraska football the way old folks do. But the idea that, like, I don't want to play against Purdue and Nebraska every week. I want to play in the SEC, where we lost to Georgia State, who's not an SEC school. And I think all this kind of stems from beating Alabama. But, like, Purdue has a more, he said, like, you play schools like Auburn and Alabama. Like, Purdue has a 9-win season more recently than Auburn does. The Big Ten's won the last 2 national championships. So the idea that you don't even take those phone calls, one, I guess it's a little bit, I find a little bit, I admire your ability to just flat out say, like, I'm not taking the money and leaving Vanderbilt. I appreciate that aspect. But again, self-awareness of, I saw a bunch of tweets of, in 2 games against Big Ten schools, Diego Pavia lost 66-7 and 38-0. No wonder he don't want to play in Big Ten. Hold on. If he likes Vanderbilt, that's awesome. Like, good for you. Nashville, great city. You can pay a lot of money to go play there. Expectations aren't that high. You probably don't have fans showing up to your dorm room telling you they're going to kill you if you didn't cover the spread, or DMing your girlfriend on Instagram. That's a nice situation to be in. But the idea that the football in the Big Ten is not as good as the SEC is an inherently SEC thing, where they continue to tell you, well, nobody's got more first-round draft picks and 5-star recruits than us. Cool. Do you win the most football games or the most important football games? No. Okay. Well, then you can't tell me how great you are all of the time and how you're superior than everyone all of the time. So while I like the cockiness, while I like the ability to say, hey, we're gonna kick ass because I kick ass, there's a part of me that absolutely appreciates that and kind of smiles and chuckles a little bit, like, as long as you can back it up, right? Like Carson Beck kind of talks a big game sometimes, and you're just not very good football, dude. Diego Pavia made New Mexico State relevant. Put Vanderbilt on the map last year with the biggest upset in the sport. So you kind of have a little bit of freedom to be a little cocky, a little arrogant. But self-awareness is something that I'll always be like, hey, kind of know who you are, what you are, where you are, And I don't know that Diego Pavia has that. I don't know that he knows who he is, where he is, and what he is. But his comments kind of lead you to believe that self-awareness isn't super high. So I'll have what he's having, because if that gives you this ridiculous sense of grandeur, I could use some of that too. Want to know your thoughts. You think Vanderbilt's going to overtake Tennessee as the big dog in the state? Let me know your comments in the box below. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. I appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, or wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you get all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. Goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.